I adjusted the office curtains just enough to catch the morning sunlight streaming over the polished mahogany floor. My silk blouse felt like armor against the chaos of coordinating 100 applicants, yet my hands still trembled slightly as my phone buzzed again. I glanced at it, another last-minute schedule change from one of the recruiters, and sighed, forcing a smile. Life was this careful dance of precision, deadlines, and appearances. Nobody outside this building knew the quiet, grinding nights I'd survived to get here. And then I saw him, standing near the registration desk, looking slightly nervous, but unmistakably the same smirk I'd seen a decade ago. My cousin Dylan. He hadn't just walked in, he was holding a folder, a resume, and he was here to apply for a job at my event. My chest tightened, a mixture of amusement and old hurt rising to the surface. The words he had thrown at me years ago, "You're jobless. You'll never make it," echoed in the hallway, bouncing off the glass walls like a cruel reminder. I straightened my spine, feeling the subtle weight of satisfaction that came from silent victories. This was the moment I had built my life toward, not for revenge, but for truth. The scent of freshly brewed coffee from the corner station mingled with the faint perfume I always wore to feel untouchable. And as Dylan's eyes met mine, there was no instant apology, no recognition of how far I'd come. Only curiosity. Only that smug little spark that said he thought he still had the upper hand. I smiled politely, checked my clipboard, and mentally braced myself for the performance I had perfected over years, composed, confident, untouchable. I remember the first time Dylan called me jobless. I was 22, fresh out of college, clutching a worn leather backpack like it was a shield. My parents were busy with work, and I'd come home from an internship that had barely paid me enough for lunch. I had dreams then, big dreams, but my cousin didn't see them. "You're just drifting, Emma," he had said, leaning against the doorframe of the living room, smirk tugging at his lips. "Everyone's moving forward, and you're stuck. Jobless. Pathetic." I felt my chest tighten, a lump forming in my throat. My hands shook as I gripped my notebook, the one where I scribbled ideas for a business I didn't even have the resources to start. I'll figure it out," I whispered, but the words felt hollow, even to me. It was my grandmother, Nana June, who noticed my silent trembling. She always had a way of seeing through the facade, even when I tried to hide behind a forced smile. She handed me a small, hand-stitched pouch of stones one afternoon while I sat on the porch, tears I refused to shed openly streaming down my face. "Each of these stones represents patience, persistence, and pride," she said softly, her voice warm but firm. "No one can take that from you, Emma. You have to believe it before anyone else will." I stared at the smooth, cool stones in my palm, feeling a spark ignite inside me. That night, I locked my bedroom door and stared at my reflection in the mirror. I couldn't change the way Dylan saw me, or the doubts everyone else projected, but I could change me. I made a decision. I would create my own path, even if no one believed I could. The next morning, I withdrew from the job boards and empty applications that had made me feel small. I started writing business plans, researching industries I barely understood, and reaching out to mentors who could teach me what school hadn't. The world hadn't given me validation yet, but I had a tiny, precious seed of confidence, a belief I could grow something on my own. And for the first time in a long time, the word jobless felt like someone else's opinion, not a sentence etched into my future. I started small. My first office was a corner of my apartment, a second-hand desk wedged between the kitchen and the living room. My laptop hummed through late nights as I drafted proposals, researched companies, and made calls that sometimes ended in polite hang-ups or harsh rejections. I had no one cheering me on except my mentor, Claire, a seasoned recruiter who saw potential where others saw a young woman fumbling through dreams. "Emma," Claire said one night over Zoom, the glow of her office lamp behind her. "Talent doesn't lie. You'll get there. But you need to be strategic, not just busy." I followed her advice obsessively, learning to pitch, negotiate, and sell an idea even when my confidence wavered. There were nights I cried in the bathroom, listening to the hum of the fridge, wondering if it was all worth it. Yet every small win, a client who paid on time, a company that trusted my judgment, a candidate who got a job through my recommendations. Felt like a step toward reclaiming a future I'd once been told I didn't deserve. I kept my progress secret. My family received vague updates, busy with work or helping some people get jobs. Nothing that would hint at the scale of my success. I didn't want pity, envy, or false congratulations. This was my story, and I wanted to finish it before anyone else got to rewrite it. Years passed, and the quiet labor began to pay off. I founded my own recruitment firm, a boutique company connecting talented young professionals with the right opportunities. My first big client signed a six-figure contract after months of persistence. The first profitable month felt like magic, a combination of relief, pride, and disbelief. I purchased a small office downtown and slowly expanded, hiring people who shared my values, my vision. Every victory was both a secret and a shield. I watched Dylan's social media posts from afar. Another promotion, another self-congratulatory photo, a smug smile I used to envy. But my envy had transformed into something else, a quiet satisfaction that I was building something real, something that could outlast temporary titles or fleeting recognition. And still, no one in my family knew the full story. They thought I was busy, that I was surviving, maybe struggling. But inside, I felt like a woman who had taken a term meant to diminish her, jobless, and turned it into the foundation of power, independence, and purpose. I kept the pouch of stones from Nana June on my desk, a daily reminder of patience, persistence, and pride. Every time I felt doubt creeping in, I held them, letting their weight anchor me in the belief that I could and would rise. The morning of the job fair was electric. My team buzzed around the office, finalizing booths, resumes, and welcome packets. I adjusted my blazer, smoothed my hair, and reminded myself to stay calm. I'd been through countless events like this, but nothing had prepared me for the moment I saw Dylan step through the glass doors. He paused at the entrance, scanning the room like a man walking into a stranger's territory. I caught the flicker of surprise. He hadn't expected this. The office looked nothing like a small-time business. Gleaming wood floors reflected the sunlight streaming in from floor-to-ceiling windows. Abstract paintings adorned the walls, each one carefully selected over months. My desk held a simple bouquet of fresh flowers and the smooth stones from Nana June's pouch, a silent declaration of the journey I'd taken. "Dylan," I said, voice calm but firm. "Welcome." He blinked, as though he didn't recognize me, or maybe he didn't recognize the woman I had become. The smirk was gone, replaced with something uncertain, almost defensive. "Emma?" I didn't know. I let him take it in. My office, my team of professional recruiters, the sleek booths behind me. Let him see the accomplishments he had mocked. Let him feel the shift he had never anticipated. "You see," I said, my voice soft but steady, "this isn't just a job fair. This is the company I founded, the team I built, the opportunities I've created for hundreds of people over the last 5 years. And yes, Dylan, you're here, as an applicant." His mouth opened, closed, and opened again, disbelief written across his face. I leaned on the edge of my desk, letting the silence speak before continuing. "I remember what you said a decade ago, that I was jobless, directionless, unable to make it. I let those words fuel me. I studied, I learned, I worked nights you couldn't imagine, and I built something real. Something that's mine. Something you're now applying to." He swallowed hard. I could see the flicker of shame, embarrassment, and incredulity in his eyes. His confident posture had crumbled, replaced by a nervous energy I hadn't seen since we were kids. I gestured toward the conference space, where dozens of candidates were waiting. "This is what success looks like, Dylan. Real work, real results, not just titles or bravado. And if you're here to learn, to grow, to earn your place honestly, then welcome. Otherwise, I suggest you step aside and reflect on what ambition truly means." He nodded, words failing him, and I turned back to oversee the fair. The satisfaction wasn't revenge. It was validation. Silent, undeniable, built on years of persistence, grit, and belief in myself when no one else would. Standing in the center of the room, I felt the shift, the invisible line between who I once was and who I had become. Dylan's hesitation, the uncertainty in his posture, made it clear. The balance of power had changed. And now it was my turn to define the terms. "Dylan," I said, voice calm but resolute. "You want a chance here? That's possible, but not without change." I listed my conditions clearly, each one deliberate, grounded in growth and responsibility. First, you need to approach this role with humility. Arrogance and entitlement have no place here. Second, commit to learning, not just earning. You're not just applying for a job, you're joining a culture of effort, creativity, and accountability. Third, if you want mentorship, be willing to listen, not lecture. Your opinions are valuable, but your attitude has to reflect respect. He swallowed, nodding slowly, and I saw him process the reality. This wasn't just about a position, it was about transformation. "And Dylan," I continued, "if you fail to meet these standards, I won't protect you from the consequences. But if you embrace them, you'll not only grow here, you'll grow as a person. That's worth more than any title you've chased so far." I extended the same grace to others present, family, friends, and even colleagues who had underestimated me over the years. The offer wasn't unconditional. It required introspection, effort, and accountability. I watched them squirm under the weight of their expectations versus reality, but I also saw the flicker of possibility. Change wasn't just for me, it was for them too, if they were willing to seize it. There was a strange warmth in the authority I held, a balance of compassion and firmness. I wasn't bitter, nor seeking revenge. I was creating boundaries, defining respect, and setting the stage for genuine growth. The room's energy shifted as people realized that empowerment came with responsibility and that I had earned the right to guide, not just judge, but guide. I caught Dylan's eyes one last time. He wasn't defeated. He was confronted with the truth of his own inadequacy and the opportunity to transform. I gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod, a challenge, a gesture of faith, and a reminder that success wasn't handed out. It was earned. The pouch of stones from Nana June, sitting quietly on my desk, seemed to glow in the morning sun. Patience, persistence, pride. Those same principles guided not just me, but the path I was extending to anyone willing to walk it with integrity. For the first time, I felt not just accomplished, but powerful in a way that shaped the world around me. Weeks after the job fair, I began to notice subtle changes, not just in Dylan, but in others who had witnessed my journey. He approached me one morning, a notebook in hand, ready to take notes, ready to learn. The arrogance was gone, replaced by genuine curiosity and determination. He asked questions, listened attentively, and even admitted mistakes he had never acknowledged before. Family members who once doubted me began to respect the boundaries I had set, and some even embraced the advice I offered. I watched them take small steps toward growth, starting new projects, letting go of old resentments, and pursuing goals with intention rather than entitlement. It was slow, imperfect, but real. I took a quiet moment in my office, holding the pouch of stones from Nana June. The smooth surfaces felt familiar in my palm, a tangible reminder of the lessons I had carried through every struggle: patience, persistence, pride. I thought about the girl who once sat in her bedroom, uncertain and underestimated, and I allowed myself a small, private smile. I had become a woman who not only survived judgment and doubt, but had turned them into a foundation for strength, independence, and grace. Success, I realized, wasn't just about the company I built or the recognition I had earned. It was about the transformation, the journey from being labeled jobless to becoming a force of empowerment for myself and others. And that, more than anything, was mine alone. As I looked out the window at the skyline, the morning sun catching the edges of the city, I whispered to myself, I am not defined by the doubt of others. I am defined by the courage to rise, the strength to grow, and the grace to lead. And in that moment, everything felt complete.